Let's talk a little bit about the path. So, what do I mean by that? Well, first off, it's considered a path of iron for a very, very specific reason, because it is tough. You cannot detour from it, and it's tough. It's a practice because we're not always going to get it perfect. However, when we can use this life, and all of the challenges in it, to not respond in pettiness, to not be angry, to control our emotional reactions, to learn to replace compassion over anger, to be able to be aware enough and self-reflect enough and honest enough to see when we need to change. When we can do this, it require anything other than life. And it becomes our teacher, the earth becomes church, and every step becomes sacred. And if we simply apply the one law of love across the board, that everyone is equal, everyone deserves respect. Here, as long as what someone is doing does not infringe upon the right of another to live their life in a happy, free, safe manner. Loving is loving someone beyond how they may suit or serve us, and wanting their greatest good, despite how we may feel about it or how it may harm us emotionally. So it's simply honoring the free will and love in another across the board. Gender preference, sexuality, all of it. Nothing matters. It's just that simple. There's no dogmatic law to say this person is below this or that person should do that. There's none of that. It's very simple. That's actually what Christ was teaching before it got hijacked by the religions. And why did it get hijacked by the religions? Well, for a very simple reason. Because if they could get people to think of Christ flipping over tables in the money changers tables, and God being wrathful and vengeful and angry and jealous and all this, well, then they never have to work on purging that from the self. And then it can be used and exploited later in order to push everybody like pawns on a chessboard. Trapped. That's what was done in the Old Testament. Humanity imposing a religion of laws that was from slavery to, read Deuteronomy and the sacrificing of animals and shedding their blood, to Christ saying, no, carry the lamb. Be the protector of. Contrast. And if the law is simply love, and we understand the karmic law, if we receive the mercy that we give, it's very simple. Facts about 2011. 2011. Take the year you were born, add it to the age that you turned in 2011. It will equal 111 for every single person on the planet. Of course, the last person on that day going all the way in goes into 2012. 2012 being prophesied as a time of great change. And have we not had great change since then? How many people have gone through massive spiritual awakenings and changes during that time? I recently wrote about read my words and how it makes them feel. They interpret it in their mind as me saying it in a certain tone. That is, and so I want to explain what I'm talking about. I went through my own purification, initiation. I underwent it. I It was way more than I thought it would ever be. However, coming out on the other side, I can tell you nothing has ever made me stronger or more loving, more compassionate. Me, returning to the real me. All the experiences that I had to overcome to increase my forgiveness, my mercy, my compassion, my patience. Started this path in 2011, and now we're coming into a time where a lot of people are kind of being thrown into it. And it was interesting when I was going through all my, realizing what's going on in the world, and went through some pretty times. All faith, focused on negativity all the time, waiting for the world to end for it to be free from the tyranny, until one day I realized that is not the purpose. And if one is waiting on that, they are going to be greatly disappointed. It's going to be much more painful. Is sooner or later, this life or the next, our heart is touched and opened. And it is ordained for us as if we begin to see the world and feel the world, to include ourselves through the heart of what some would call Christ. Love. Escape internal fires. And as I began to work through it, then the dark came after me. Now that you're getting past that, now we're going to come at you even more. We're going to do everything we can to keep you down. Reactive, emotionally negative, emotionally hopeless, helpless, angry. Want you angry. Because it understands that love and compassion, mercy, the virtues of grace, that's our power. And it's terrified of that. And the more of us that have that, well, if you doubt the strength of heaven that I speak of, when I speak of all of this happening, not in the spirit of anger and wrath and punishment as some want us to believe. Absolute compassion and mercy. See, people can't fathom that a warrior in that could be in anger or in wrath, and that's because they have no experience with it. Tremble and weep in terror. Life for the next, all are held accountable. And all will be brought back to the light. And what we must go through, just mercy, Those that are just refuse and are doing their best to harm humanity, I bow to them. What they will go through. You know, every sinner has a future, every saint has a past, right? Even in these days, I'm not frantic about what's happening because I understand is overall in control. Or the next, sooner or later, all are held accountable. But it is not an eternal damnation. It is not a punishment. It is not in wrath. It's in the greatest mercy. Mercy. It is in these times that the greatest of humanity is shown. Courage, selflessness, charity. It's the paradox. It's in the times of greatest hell that we see the greatest heavens being born. If if losing a loved one, please know they are not lost. But if you feel the pain of it, then use that and sear it into your consciousness and heart. Love for granted again. And when those that you love challenge you, remember that. Use it to act different, to be different. And the more that we do this, the more that we use practice. We're not always going to get it right. That's why it takes forgiving the self too and getting up and moving forward. It also takes great courage to look at the self. See, self-loathing and self-criticism, very different. Helps us improve who we are. We become empowered. Self-loathing serves no one. So anyone attempting to make you hate yourself versus recognize that you are divine, and are doing what they can to uplift you, you have the source of creation in you. Serves nothing. However, we must be objective and self-critical as much as possible to course correct when we need to. To sit throughout the day and say, how could I have handled that situation different, been more loving, been more kind, and be self-honest enough to admit that, go through it, meditate upon it, and then the next day, put it into practice. course, we're going to fall. We just get back up. Others, paying it forward. The most greatest blessings. For you to recognize and realize how beautiful and how strong you really are. Thrown away or eternally damned, that's not loving. Heaven, these people go to hell. Damning and wrathful and punishing. Eternal hell. Light, they would know. And mercy. And languish and agony. But to do what we can to propel them on their own, to learn, to be better, to become wise from our mistakes. Is another wisdom learned. To learn from it. No shortage of teachers, good and bad, on this planet. Teaching us everything that's happening, even when the dark does stuff, it is allowing it to occur. Those that choose not to, well, everyone's still held accountable. There is still mercy. One. Symbolizing God, the dot below, the people, the line in between, faith, love, alphabet, the new alpha, 111, the end of 2011, the beginning of 2012, the time period in which we are all being purged by the fires of heaven so that we can rise from the ashes like the phoenix. Truly are. That's the number one priority and focus. The rest will take care of itself if that becomes the priority. Take the year 2011, however old you were, add the last two digits of your birth year, 111 for every single person on the planet, signifying that all people on this planet are children of God. None are chosen above another.